On the phone, we get a gentleman, one of the greatest basketball players in NBA history, former Cincinnati Bearcat and Cincinnati Royal. He finished his career with the Bucks. The big O, Oscar Robertson. How you doing, Oscar?
Pretty good, thank you.
I see that you grew up in Indianapolis. How did you not go to Indiana for college and end up at Cincinnati?
Well, it's an old story, but I wasn't offered a scholarship to go to Indiana University.
Did Branch McCracken not have any interest whatsoever?
None whatsoever.
He wasn't a real smart man. It doesn't look like.
And I was Mr. Basketball from Indiana that year, but not for Branch McCracken.
That long after you that Walt Bellamy was at Indiana.
He came there after
Right.
1956. He was there a couple of years later.
Right.
Do you think it had anything to do with the color of your skin, why he didn't recruit you?
No doubt about it.
Growing up, you're from an era that some people today are unfamiliar with, when the schools were, I guess, legally segregated.
Yeah, there was something like that in high school, because I went to an all-black high school in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's called Christopher Ethics.
Right. Was there not much interaction then, growing up, with the white people?
Oh yeah, I mean, we played ball with them in the summertime over the park. The guys I knew, but I never. But other than playing against them during my years in school and knowing some of the guys that I played against who came over and played with us, no, I had no action at all with white people.
Your coach at high school at Crispus Attucks, Ray Crow, how influential was he on you?
He was very influential because he had gone through Indiana Central College, and he'd been around whites, and he grew up in an all-white neighborhood, and I guess he was the proper person to go forward, because the perception was that we were going to cause trouble, we were going to do all these difficult things, but none of those things ever happened when I was in school at all. Great school, great student.
So how did you end up at Cincinnati?
I wanted to get a degree in business. I looked around at a lot of schools. I was going to go to Purdue University, but when I looked up and saw Purdue had 5 blacks on their team, and 3 of them sit on the bench, and the guys on the bench were some of the top 5 players from the state of Indiana. So I said that's not for me. And a lot of schools, there was not a lot of big hard recruiting like it is today. They'd write you a letter. Plus, I was in the Indiana-Kentucky All-Star game, and as a result, I was really still in high school. I couldn't talk to anybody myself.
As a sophomore, you played on that team that lost in the semifinals to the state champs Milan. Did you realize how good that team was you played?
Well, I think they had a good team, but I don't think they were that great a basketball team, because the team that they beat, Muncie Central, had the best team that year in the state. We had 2 players that got hurt. One was Willie Merriweather, one was Wilfred O'Neill, who were all state. They got hurt playing football, so it killed us that year.
How does a guy 6'5", back in the 50s, end up as a shooting guard, point guard, rather than as a center or a forward?
Well, I think if you grow about 7 or 8 inches from your freshman to sophomore year, that would probably do it for you. I played guard. I had all the guard skills, but I just grew one year. I didn't realize it, but I grew so fast, and I still had the same skills.
I'm looking at your stats in college. You had 33.8 points a game, 3rd highest in college history at Cincinnati. How did you do that?
Just worked hard at it. I was really serious about my game, and I tried to improve it during the summer months. And so I just worked at it. I played the game, let the game come to me, and certain things happen. Guys play better defense sometimes than other times, and so I was successful at it.
So I see you led the nation in scoring 3 years, and that's at a time when you couldn't play as a freshman.
I could not play as a freshman at all. You're exactly right. So I was only able to play 3 years, although some of the guys that have the records played 4 years.
Do you think you would have led the nation in scoring 4 straight years if you played as a freshman?
Well, as a freshman, I averaged about 34 points a game as well. During my freshman, we played 16 games as a freshman, and I think I still averaged 34 points a game.
What was the transition like going from Indianapolis to the University of Cincinnati?
You know, you grow up. You know, you from a teenager, you become an adult, and you're on your own. You're in school. You have to manage your time, and you have to get to know the guys that you never met before who come into the university. You try to get together and work as a team. So you know, everybody goes through the same thing there.
How good were those Bearcat teams? I mean, you were 79-9, but again,
yeah. We were at a private school, and I tell you what happened. You had to graduate in the top 10% of your class in order to get into the school. So that left a lot of players out. A lot of great basketball players that I knew, who I thought should have been able to go to the University of Cincinnati. They didn't qualify. So as a result, we had a good team. We didn't have a great basketball team, to be honest. I mean, but we were lucky. We won 79 games, and so. Then got in the finals a couple of years, but you know, hey, listen, you gotta have good players, you gotta have some luck sometimes when you get into those finals, and you can't get Oscar Robertson with a lot of fouls on him either, you know, for that to work.
Now you played on one of the great basketball teams of all time in the 1960 Olympics. What was that experience like?
It was great. As I was young, maybe 17 years old, I was so thrilled to be able to play in the Olympics, and you know, and really playing for your country, and really playing for all the guys that I knew and grew up with from Tennessee to Indianapolis. All of us who weren't able to get to that spot, I represented them as well as the country and myself.
Everyone talks about the dream team with Jordan and Ewing and Pippen and Bird and Johnson. You guys had a dream team, and that was even better because you guys were all in college.
We were not. We didn't have the experience of playing pro ball either. I mean, you know, they talk about dream team. You know, it was dream because television said it was dream. You know, any team can be a dream team. It's like the hockey team. You know, they said the hockey team was dream because they beat the Russians, but you got to win, and we won. As a matter of fact, our point difference was how just as good as the dream team.
On that squad, you had Jerry West, Jerry Lucas, Walt Bellamy,
Harry Dissinger, had Agent Smith, J.R. Nat. Then they had some Bob Boozer was on the team. So it wasn't a bad team. If you project us 8 or 9 years into the pros, then, and here again, I said this, you know, they said the dream team they had, well, take myself, West, Walt Frazier, Earl Monroe, Gus Johnson, Rick Barry, and put Wilt, Elgin, Bob Pettit, and Bill Russell on the team. Who's going to win?
I think you beat the dream team every time.
There's no doubt about it. We beat them every time.
Because I'm looking at the results of those games. I mean, your closest games were the first game against Italy, 88-54, and then Brazil in the finals, 90-63.
So we had a very good basketball team, very, very accomplished players. Jerry West, at guard, I played forward with Terry Dissinger. Either Bellamy or Lucas played the pivot. So we had a good team. We had a good coach in Pete Newell. And, you know, we were unselfish basketball players, which I think made a tremendous difference.
Who was the leader on the team?
Several leaders, you know. I led, Terry Dissinger led, Jerry West led. We had a guard named Les Lane who probably kept it all together for us. So, you know, and I think sometimes it's overblown, you know, to say who's the leader. You know, you play basketball, you know, if you get a chance to put it in the basket, you do that. Get a chance to play good defense or rebound or make an assist, that's what you do. If that's leading, then we had a few leaders on our team.
Did you learn any Italian over in Rome?
I did. As a matter of fact, I got me a record from one of these agencies, and I learned how to say the food is good. And I wanted to go to the Olympic Village. I want to go to a hotel, and how are you, and goodbye. I learned all those things.
How did you get the nickname the Big O? Who gave it to you?
A radio guy in Cincinnati. Because, you know, when I came on the scene, Wilt was called the Stilt, Elgin was called a Rabbit, and because my name was Oscar, they called me the Big O.
Now, the Royals took you as a territorial pick. Is that something that you had hoped would occur?
Didn't think that much about it, but I said this, you know, I look at the draft over the years, and I think the draft is wrong for a lot of players. And I'll give you a good example. Here's a little girl named Skylar Diggins from Notre Dame, probably one of the top 2 players in the country. She goes to Tulsa. You're not going to hear of her again. Dale Griffith came out of Kentucky, probably the top player other than Magic Johnson, but I think Dale Griffith had the top spot. He went to Utah. You never heard of Dale Griffith after that.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, the towns could basically make these guys a star or bury them.
That's true, and you know, I mean, I enjoyed playing in Cincinnati, but you know, what if I'd have played in New York, especially New York? I mean, there's been a world of difference, totally different.
Right. I mean, you would have been bigger than Walt Frazier was, or any of those Knicks.
Well, just opportunities that would be presented to you. And I don't know, you know, I'd like to think I could play basketball against anybody, but being in Cincinnati, you know, everybody was sort of laid back, you know. I think they're waiting 10 years ago, you know, like Mark Twain said. Hey, in 10 years it'll all come here.
What I don't get is, okay, the Lakers are identified with Jerry West, Bill Sharman is their GM building those teams, Magic Johnson. You never hear about Elgin Baylor. It's like they kind of cast him aside.
It's a tragedy, I must tell you. And I've often said this about different ball players that I see around the country. Elgin Baylor, no doubt, is probably one of the top small forward in the game. Who could play better forward than Elgin Baylor? The guy averaged 1 year 37 points a game and 14 rebounds. I mean, I don't know anyone can do that now. I don't know any of these forwards can do that now. Great forwards. Who are the great forwards in the game today? And they talk about the kid down at San Antonio being a power forward. Hell, he plays the pivot.
Exactly. Duncan's not a power forward. He's a center.
Of course, he can't dribble the ball. He can't do anything outside. But he's great. He was great off the block. No doubt about it. So, but they wanted to say he was a forward, but he was not a forward.
Now, Elgin was Dr. J before Dr. J. Elgin was so different from anything. Certainly,
but, you know, because he could put the ball on the floor. He could move where he could get his shot. How many forwards today can put the ball on the floor 2 or 3 times and get a shot away?
And have the moves that he had.
Right now, I don't know if any of them can do that. You look at Miami's basketball team. Great LeBron, great Dwayne Wade. Other than that, who can put the ball on the floor and get a basket? Who can go somewhere with the ball and have to dribble 2 or 3 times? I don't think any of them can.
No, exactly. And you had a great teammate in Jerry Lucas with the Royals.
No doubt about it. But Jerry was a great forward because he had the shot. He could make the shot outside. He was a tremendous rebounder. But here again, you know, Jerry couldn't put the ball on the floor and go anywhere either. But because of his shot, it made him a great forward.
You also had a pretty fair ball player in the late Jack Twyman.
Well, you know, here again, you know, we had a fair team, but we didn't have the bench. We could not overcome the Celtics. Came close a lot of times, but we didn't have the support off the bench. You know, because I think in order to win a championship, sometimes you look at every championship team. There's one thing that's common. They've all made key trades. Every team that won has made a trade.
No, you're right. Everyone talks about you in the triple-double, averaging in a season. Did you realize you were doing it then, or is this something that became a stat after you retired?
Well, of course it happened after I retired. As a matter of fact, everybody played the same way. I mean, I didn't think there was any difference in him. But, you know, all of a sudden now, you know, if a guy gets a triple-double, he's king of the mountain. But I think that they forgot that Oscar Robertson did this for quite a while. It just goes to show you what history does and what announcers do when they get on the air and talk about this. Another thing, who was the greatest shot blocker in the history of the NBA?
Bill Russell?
No.
Mark Eaton.
Mutombo. But only because they didn't recognize any of Bill's shot blocking before a certain time. They didn't even keep those stats until I guess it may have been in the 70s. And Will Chamberlain as well. Nate Thurman. Those guys blocked shots, man. Yeah. I mean, they protected the basket.
Nate's like the forgotten man. When they talk about the centers in the 60s, early 70s, it's always Russell and Chamberlain. But Nate Thurman, he was strong, and he was solid.
A great defensive ball player. Great defensive ball player. And the thing about it, because you mentioned Russell and Chamberlain, no one else got any ink in the pivot. I mean, that was it.
Wayne Embry, your former teammate.
Wayne Embry came into the league, was not an accomplished player, but he worked hard. He made himself an all-star. Wayne averaged 15 points a game, maybe 11 or 12 rebounds. That today would get you about $15 to $20 million a year.
What would you make in today's game?
I don't know, but it'll probably be quite a bit of money. Quite a bit of money. I mean, if you look at, everybody. I see guys who average 3 and 4 with 6 points a game getting $10 million a year. I don't know what the hell's going on. Are they printing the money?
Yes, David Stern has this little printing press in New York in a basement somewhere.
But let me ask you. I mean, you give a guy $18 million a year. He's hurt. He doesn't do anything. Do you keep on paying him?
It's these guaranteed. It's the guaranteed contracts. It's ridiculous. You guys are playing on 1-year deals.
You got to have some insurance on these players or something because I think the guy who gets that kind of money should be a basketball player. Not that he's going to make every shot or block every shot, but he should be a basketball player.
No doubt about it. What was the transition like from college to the pros for you?
Players a little bigger, a little stronger, better players, better mental basketball players than they were in college. But you make the adjustment. If you're a basketball player, you make the adjustment. And so playing against them, after you go around, you know what people can do. And so after that, you get right in tune with everybody.
Did you have a favorite coach to play for?
No, I like Jack McMahon because he was a basketball player. We had some coaches here who really did not understand the game of basketball at all. Here in Cincinnati, like a lot of small cities, they like to pick their friends to coach them. Instead of getting someone who understands the game. And they would also get players who played 20 miles away. They thought that would bring fans in, but that's not true. In pro sports, it's a nationwide, international thing, and you go all over trying to get these basketball players to fit on your team.
When you made it to the NBA, did you think, okay, now I'll be accepted socially and in hotels and things like that? Did you figure the segregation that you had grown up with would sort of go away?
No, being black in America, it's always with you. You don't think about those things because you're accustomed to what America was, and you live that way. We had some problems at Cincinnati, when I played in college as well as in the pros, but you have to overcome those things, you can't dwell on those things forever, I wasn't the only one. There were a lot of players. I understand Russell and Sam and Guy Casey had troubles playing in Lexington. While I was with the Pan American team, we went down to play an exhibition game in Louisville. I could have stayed in the Brown Hotel, but I got in eventually because the coach from Louisville was the assistant coach of the team for that game. He got me and Bob Boozer and Johnny Green into the hotel.
What's amazing with Cincinnati is, you think about it, Jack Twyman had to adopt Maurice Stokes to make sure he was taken care of because the old ownership just cast him aside.
Yes, it is. It's wonderful for Jack. I will always remember Jack. He passed away now. I never forget that. He's one of the top guys in my category for what he did off the court for Maurice Stokes.
Who guarded you the toughest, I guess, in the pros?
To be honest, there were a lot of guys. And Barnett guarded tough. Casey Jones, a guy named Snyder played for St. Louis. I think what happened a lot. Jerry Sloan, of course. There are a lot of players who guard and some don't. You got to make adjustments for them. Sometimes the press picks out the defensive players even before they ever play. They say, "Oh, this guy's great on defense." Great, why? You got to ask players who was the toughest defensive player. Other than that, just like the All-Star game now, All-Star game to me is going to the pitch. When you start taking the fans, they're going to vote 5 and 10 times each to pick an All-Star team. It's not really what an All-Star team should be. The players should be the ones picking the players.
Did anyone talk more trash than Sam Jones, though?
No, I don't know. Sam never said that much to me. He may have talked to some other people, but there were a lot of guys. There wasn't a lot of guys who did that years ago because you'd probably get hit. Years ago, you hit somebody, the fine was only $50. Now, they let people run up and do a lot of things, but they say, you can't hit. Guy can swing at you, but if you hit him back, they fine you too. It's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
how difficult was it getting along with Bob Cousy, who played a little bit with the Royals and then became the coach?
I didn't really know Cousy. Played against until he came to the Royals, and he told me one day he wanted to trade me. So I said, hey, look at my contract. I had a no-cut contract. But they had a campaign against Oscar Robertson here in town. He was behind it. But I hadn't done anything, and all I did was first team All-Pro for 10 straight years, but I hadn't done anything.
How satisfying was it when you broke his assist record?
I didn't even know I did it. Had no thoughts of it whatsoever. Didn't even think about that. I had no personal agenda against Bob Cousy. Bob Cousy was a great basketball player. As I said, I didn't even know him. I knew who he was, but that was as far as it went with me.
When the Royals traded you to the Milwaukee Bucks for Flynn Robinson and Charlie Polk, did you say to yourself, that's all Cincinnati's getting from me?
No, actually, I had a family, had 3 kids, and so I wanted to get settled, located in a good school district. But when you mention that, those guys never even played here. Cousy just wanted to get me out of here. You have to ask him why he did that.
I think he was jealous of the attention you were getting.
Well, it could be, but I don't know. But you have to ask him, here I am. I'm All-Pro 10 straight years, and all of a sudden I can't play anymore. I can't do this anymore. But this is what happens, But when the past year in Cincinnati got on Cousy's side, and this is what happens, when I look at the situation with LeBron, okay, I think LeBron should have possibly stayed at Cleveland. I think the people at Cleveland were good to him. But that's LeBron's decision, he didn't have a contract, so he left. But for people around the country to burn his jersey and make derogatory comments about what he did, and all of a sudden now, and when he didn't win the 1 year, all this, that's LeBron. Well, that's what happens, what hypocrites are there in the country, Not everybody wins a championship. You got to be lucky. You got to be in the right spots. I said before, there got to be some key trades made in order for you to win a championship.
Well, you ended up in Milwaukee with a guy, not a bad center in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Kareem was young, just getting started, and we worked together. I offered a little advice I had, and now he became a great basketball player. A greater basketball player, I'll say that.
What advice did you give him?
Just talk about the game itself. About what he could do defensively. He worked on his offensive game, low post. He had a great sky hook, but there are other things to do besides sky hook. And fortunate for him, he listened. And hey, listen, and see what he did in his career, all-time leading scorer.
Was Milwaukee a similar situation to Cincinnati in that it's like, okay, here I am in a small town with tremendous talent and the opportunities away from the court?
To a certain extent, because they also were the thing. Well, we can't pay these salaries, we can't do this. But they said that, but they want top players. I don't understand it. Why get a team then? Why buy into a team then if you have those thoughts? But they had that in Milwaukee as well.
How did you become president of the Players Association?
Through talks with Jack Twyman, and really, sometimes fate determines what you're going to do. I really didn't know that much about it, but I must say that if I were not a great player, man, you wouldn't be talking to me today. I'd have been out of the league.
Were you the first black president of the Players Association?
Yes, I was. No, that's true. And that's what I said. If I were not a great player, you wouldn't be talking to me today about this at all.
So they would have kicked you right out of the league.
Kicked me right out of the league.
You see a lot of player reps who fall into that category, that all of a sudden they're serviceable, and then they become, one of the team's player reps, and next thing you know, they're not on the roster.
That is so true.
It's just pure coincidence, right?
Pure coincidence. Isn't that something?
How did you decide to file the antitrust suit against the league? Was that your idea, or the attorneys, or the players wanted you to do it?
The attorneys and everybody. Basketball needed to change. It was going nowhere to a certain extent, and I think that the Oscar Robertson ruling gave basketball a movie star status, a celebrity type status, where guys were making instead of $300,000, maybe $3 or $4 or $5 million a year, and it made a big difference. We got better travel, better medical attention, better food money, better everything for a basketball player at that time.
Players nowadays and fans nowadays have no idea that once upon a time there was no such thing as free agency.
That's exactly right, because for instance, if you were on a team and you drove a luxury car and a coach didn't like it, he could keep you from playing forever. He'd cut you from the team. You could never go anywhere else in the world.
Why did it take 6 years for that lawsuit to get resolved? I mean, nowadays, if a strike goes more than 3 months, people are going crazy.
Well, I think because we have some good attorneys. We have. That's the reason that it was successful. Our guys were very good, and once we went to the court, I guess it took the court a little while to accept it. We're trying to work things out, but hey, you need good attorneys, and sometimes you make a mistake picking attorneys. But we had some excellent attorneys.
How did you know when it was time to call it a career?
I played 14 years, and I tell you, the Bucks came to me one year. We got in the finals, and Boston beat us, and they just said, "Well, they stood right. Oh, is Oscar too old to play?" But I was going to leave anyway, but they didn't know it. But but this is what happens. No matter what you do for these teams, man, it's not enough. They're going to say I was too old. I played 41 minutes a game my last year with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Well, and the season after you retired, the Bucks ended up in last place. So you must have had some value.
Well, they didn't think so. They didn't think so at all.
Did you have a favorite moment in the game?
Oh no, I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed playing. I enjoyed playing with my teammates and trying to win. Not you don't win everything, but you win a lot of it. There was no special moment for me. I think the whole experience of playing basketball throughout my career was special.
When you retired, you went into broadcasting.
Oh, yeah, for a little while. Yeah, they mixed that too. The NBA took me off of that.
How did they do that?
Because they had the power to do that. They determined who goes on the air for them. And since I was involved with that Oscar Robertson case, that was it. It was a blackballing deal.
It's hard to imagine that that in today's world they would be able to get away with something like that, where you have such complete coverage of everything that goes on.
Well, here again, this is a lot of things go on in this country that I mean I didn't think it was right to do. I wanted to stay on the air, but so you go on. You don't cry about everything that happens. You get over it and try to do something else. I mean, but that's the reason I was taken off there. And I know this for a fact because they said that I was involved in the Oscar Robertson case, and we won the case, and some owners didn't like that at all. Didn't like it at all.
Plus, you weren't a former Celtic like Bob Cousy or Tommy Heinsohn.
That's exactly right. I mean, Celtics they experienced some great successes on the court and off the court as well. I mean, they're still involved. They're still involved with the Boston Celtics. Am I involved with the teams I played with? One is Sacramento. I've been out to Sacramento a few times. Am I involved with the Bucks? No, not at all.
Why is that?
You have to ask the Bucks. I really don't know.
What I don't get also is the face of the NBA. When you look at that logo, it's Jerry West. I mean, Jerry West was a great player, but he wasn't the greatest player of all time.
He's one of the greatest players. I mean, Jerry was a tremendous basketball player. I mean, I can't take it away from anything away from what he did. But this is what was going on those times. I mean, I never forget years ago. When they used to give shoe deals, blacks couldn't get a shoe deal when I first started playing. But then they want you to wear the shoe. But as far as giving you a deal or wear the shoe, they didn't think it was necessary. Then along comes Nike, and they made a fortune off of using Michael Jordan and getting these black kids to buy these shoes. But not only black kids buy the shoes, but whites buy them as well. But a lot of blacks buy them as well.
As you look back on your life, from where you started to where you are, how do you assess it?
Who can assess it? I don't know that much about it. I mean, I don't have that ability to do that. I mean, I'm here like anyone else. You go and try to live your day as a good, decent individual, and that's the best thing you can really do.
I got to give you credit, though. You started the chemical company, became a multimillionaire outside the basketball world. Another guy in Chicago here, Gail Sayers, did the same thing in computer work. And basically, you guys made something yourself, not just because of basketball, but because of your how smart you were.
Well, I think you have to be looking at that too. You need corporate America in order to get anything done like that. They have to get involved in what you're doing, and I mean, naturally the things that go on today. They talk about minority business, and which is a tool a lot of companies use in order because they want minorities to buy their product. But some very, very, very few have been able to go forward, and I hope I can continue to do so.
Now, should we be calling you Dr. Robertson? Because you did get an honorary doctorate from Cincinnati in 2007. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was very nice. I mean, I've been around the university a lot, and I graduated from the University of Cincinnati, and I also made the dean list 2 or 3 times at the University of Cincinnati. So it was just an honorary degree that I received. I'm very happy about it.
Did you ever have memory contests with Jerry Lucas? Because he's like Dr. Memory.
No, I don't know. I understand he's writing some books and things about this, about education as well. But here again, PR and perception means a lot in the world today. It's perceived if you're smart politically. It's perception that he's a great businessman. You got to be lucky to get some of these things done. I mean, it means a lot. Be in the right place at the right time.
Who would you say is the greatest player in NBA history?
That I've seen. I mean,
yes.
I'm gonna say Elgin,
Virginia, and raised in New York, and now. And we did. We got on this big elevator, and we got out. That mine